Something so fascinating about analog horror is its ability to exist in almost any universe you can think of. Godzilla? There's analog horror. Batman? Analog horror. So it shouldn't surprise me at all to see that our favorite well-known hedgehog, Sonic, has gotten the analog horror treatment. And boy, at first glance, does it look nothing short of disturbing. But this isn't the first time Sonic has been turned into a horrific nightmare. I remember being just a young lad hearing about the terrifying tale of sonic.exe. The gist of the original creepypasta is that you unknowingly receive a glitched out, tampered with version of a Sonic game, labeled sonic.exe. It might have looked like your ordinary game of this famous Sega character. However, it doesn't take long before you see what makes it so haunted. A demonic variant of Sonic killing all of the other cast of characters, before eventually getting to you. This would make any child sleep under the covers, and never want to touch another Sonic game again. Given that Sonic has existed as one of the most popular creepypastas, I can't be more excited to see what he must be like in an analog horror world. So I suggest putting on your best running shoes and protective gear just in case we gotta haul ass fast away from this potential danger. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to check out the original series before jumping on over here for us to check it out together. But without further ado, let's see what horrors await us within the Sonic tapes.
But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. And if you want to see more, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Letterboxd. Alright, now you can pass through.
The Sonic tapes. House footage. To start off the series, we are met with quite the first frame, I must say. Sonic is standing over the mutilated corpse of Dr. Eggman, which is a sentence I never thought I would say, but here we are. The tape begins to glitch out a little bit, and as if Sonic knows someone is watching, he slowly begins to turn and look directly into the camera. Perhaps this will have closer ties to sonic.exe than I thought, and Sonic will literally be going around killing all of our beloved characters. Our tape cuts to black, and we are then met with an emergency broadcast system. There have been several mutilations and reported missing persons in the past day. Be alert, lock your doors, windows, and arm yourself. Given that I know very little about the Sonic lore, even I know his speed is probably going to make him borderline impossible to stop. Be prepared for a face-to-face encounter with this threat. I highly doubt anything will be enough to prepare me for this. Just like the title of this tape, we are then brought to home security cameras, both outside and inside the home. Everything looks clear, for now, but very quickly it appears this house is about to be Sonic's next target. Sonic appears standing behind a tree outside, just waiting and watching. Once we cut to a camera located inside, we can hear that he has broken a window and has already made his way in the house. We cut to a close-up of Sonic staring directly into our souls. I like the design that his eyes creepily glow in the dark, and I hate the sound of him running around the house. He finds the room our victim is resting in, and peeks inside to see his next target, before, well, Sonic decides to have him as a snack. This is definitely going to be a fun series to explore. I'm honestly surprised at how well the creator was able to design Sonic to look as sinister as he does hiding in the dark. If I saw this thing in real life, it'd be game over. Sonic the Hedgehog animation. We are brought to a whole new 2D animation style, where Sonic finds himself laying against a tree, looking very malnourished. It's also important to note that this is labeled a prequel to the last tape, so this puts us at the very beginning. He opens up his lunchbox and pulls out what looks to be a mini dead rabbit, and then he eats it. It appears Sonic has always had the hunger for living creatures, and two more are about to meet the same fate. The two creatures approach Sonic, and the bird is giving him some attitude. I can just tell. And it's hard to tell if this scene is supposed to be comedic or not, but just the quick nature of this cutaway, I couldn't help but laugh. We cut to black after our bird gets his face slammed in, and are flashed a very quick frame of that creepy Sonic smile. Sonic then stares down at the other creature, and smashes it to reveal it was a little suit this pig was riding inside, but he is very quickly eaten up. Sonic looks out in the distance and sees a whole bunch of other creatures, who I can believe we can safely assume have all got brutally consumed. As it turns out, Dr. Eggman was the one creating these little suits for the creatures to reside in. Does he know that Sonic is going around wreaking havoc? Is Dr. Eggman a good man in this universe who is trying to protect the land from an evil Sonic? Needless to say, Sonic busts through a wall and is not very happy to learn what Eggman has been doing. We cut from that classic 2D animation back to the creepy hyper-realistic art, and Sonic stares directly into our soul. And to end this tape off, we very quickly are flashed the aftermath of the Dr. Eggman attack. Like I said prior, I am not very well versed in the Sonic lore, so I'm not too sure where exactly this is taking place in the world. It looked like we were in our regular homeworld Earth in the first tape, but it's possible this all just takes place in the fictional planet it sounds like Sonic lives in. But is it possible that Sonic traversed planes and went from his original home to then terrorize ours? Maybe he got tired of just eating little creatures, and after getting a taste of Dr. Eggman, decided humans were the way to go. The Sonic tapes, Two-Tailed Fox. The first thing we're met with this tape is our good friend Tails enjoying a nice rest, but those damn footsteps tell us they're in for a bad time. Sonic is here and is stalking him somewhere in the room. It's also kind of funny to see Tails staring at the camera like this, but then that humor quickly gets drowned out once Sonic slowly appears from behind and makes a move we haven't seen him do before. The animation has been getting better and better as these tapes go on. At first I thought this series would just have a static Sonic that appears and disappears, but we're getting full movement, and it's adding a ton of life to these creatures. Will it be used to horribly disturb us? More than likely. Text comes on screen to inform us that over the past 3 weeks, there have been an exponential number of missing persons reports, and most consist of individuals being taken right out of their homes. Where are they being taken if they aren't being eaten? There has been a whopping total of 946 people that have gone missing from the area. Sonic is on the ultimate hunt. We do learn that not a single body has been recovered. Perhaps they aren't being taken, but just eaten up entirely to where nothing is left to be found. Not even the search parties are safe, as it's said many of them go missing as well during their search. We're then played a clip that looks to be Sonic's next attack. After that haunting bit, we are then shown some final images taken from one of the cameras used by someone a part of the search party. To make matters worse, the camera was found next to blood trails that led into the woods. This Sonic creature appears to now be on all fours, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he is also looking exponentially larger than before. Now that I'm looking at it, the playlist is titled Shin Sonic Series. Don't tell me this thing can morph and upgrade his abilities, because then the public is truly doomed. We're then shown a photo of an entity that was caught flying through the sky, and we can see what looks like Tails flying away with another victim. Is Tails kidnapping people for Sonic? Hopefully it's Sonic taking control over Tails, and not Tails acting on their own evil will. At this point, these images have begun to circulate online, but the local government is keeping quiet. But the people are speculating them to be the kidnappers, and they wouldn't be wrong. To end off this entry, my theory before is unfortunately proven true. Sonic is growing in size and becoming an even more dangerous threat. I shudder to even imagine what his final form may look like. As of now, it isn't just Sonic posing a danger to society, but now Tails is a part of the mix. And given the fact that Tails is able to fly, that may be how people are so easily getting snatched up out of their homes, to then be brought over to Sonic for his feeding. And if I had to guess, the more Sonic consumes, the bigger and stronger he becomes. The Sonic tapes, Cry of the Forest. Our tape has us following a police officer who was called to patrol an area near the edge of the hilltop forest after locals reported hearing loud cries throughout the night. What we get to see is his final moments on body cam, unless he somehow makes it out alive. Just when I thought this series couldn't cover any more styles, we're brought to found footage and follow our officer through the woods. Something ends up interfering with his radio and he loses all communication. We end up hearing those similar strange sounds coming from the forest, and I kinda wish I never saw what was making them. A very large Sonic stalking from the trees. Our officer runs off and tries to hide himself, but it appears that Tails has multiplied, and the officer may be out of luck. He winds up coming across this demonic-looking statue, and it doesn't seem like he's the only one around. The next morning, the officer's body was found on the statue, and in the short 24-hour span, his body was entirely decomposed, and his insides had been entirely removed. When authorities returned later in the day, the body was gone. The public has been evacuated, and while it seems the tape ends here, there is still one last scene that is very telling to the future of this series. It appears Sonic has already reached what I hope is already max size, because I don't know how you get any bigger than that. It seems that Tails is unfortunately a lost cause at this point. I imagine whatever that stab move Sonic did in the prior entry is what turned him into this entity. Perhaps the same thing happened to Sonic, and he too was just his lovely self before a demonic presence came into the mix and changed everything. The Sonic tapes. A dreadful vision. Our tape begins and we are met with yet another beloved Sonic character, Knuckles.
I see Robotnik, and I've learned how to fly.
Oh my god, it's Keanu Reeves!
He runs around the world, questioning why no one else is around. The world is just empty. He ends up approaching a smashed corpse laid out on the grass. If I'm being honest, at first glance, given the black and red, I thought this could be Shadow. But the blue near the end also makes me think it could be the little bird and the pig Sonic smashed up in our second tape. But needless to say, this scene horrifies Knuckles. I gotta point out too, the animation has been upped yet again. It's really cool to see how much this looks like your typical Sonic game. Knuckles keeps running until he bumps into Tails, and asks him if he knows about what's going on. Tails doesn't respond, but we see him multiply into 4 different variants, to which Sonic then appears behind Knuckles, and we get this haunting scene. Knuckles does indeed try to run, but this monster-looking Sonic is on his tail, and boy does it look like he has certainly increased in size. Knuckles gets captured and chained up, and Knuckles comes to the conclusion that this can't be the real Sonic, but something else entirely. He asks what he did to Tails, and what his motive could be, to which Sonic decides he will just show us, and we are most certainly shown. Knuckles then gets the dreadful vision, just like the title says. Once again, I am not too familiar with the Sonic lore, so I'm not sure what the difference between Super and Chaos Emeralds are, but Knuckles does refer to the emeralds we see as the Super Emeralds. But all we know is that Sonic needs these emeralds to complete some sort of ritual. What this ritual entails is beyond me, but it sounds like if Knuckles can get to them first, then perhaps we can stand a chance at stopping Sonic. When Knuckles asks what happens if the ritual is completed, we see this demonic Sonic design in Knuckles' sight, and it looks like he's ready to take on the challenge. This tape was certainly the turning point in this whole series. Now it's up to Knuckles to defeat the Shin Sonic and stop him from completing the ritual. I imagine Sonic is going to just keep growing and growing in size, so this is going to be no easy task for Knuckles to accomplish. Little did I know an Analog Sonic series would get me this invested, but here we are. The animation with each tape just keeps getting better and better, so I'm very excited to see what our latest tape has to offer us. The Sonic tapes, Chaos. Our latest tape begins, and we see Knuckles walking through Palm Tree Panic before he comes across a sign just labeled Past. We're then brought to a report from the Guardian Units of Nations, to which we learn quite the frightening developments. At this point, given Sonic's size and power, the public is very well aware of his existence. Tails has also continued to multiply at a rapid rate, and his appearances are being seen everywhere, making this no longer just a threat to the US. To make matters even worse, even at his enormous size, Sonic is still able to traverse at his lightning speeds. Given his size and speed, whenever he travels, he creates massive shockwaves that are truly devastating to anything and everything surrounding him. He makes his way to Station Square, and it's reported he had no interest in the civilians, but he was searching for something, more than likely the emeralds.
Zawarudo!
We're then shown the Beast himself, and even Tails is getting in on the action.
Tails, you useless dumbass! This is why you were abused as a pet!
We see this tiny green light make its way into Sonic. Looks like he has got himself one of the emeralds, which can't mean anything good. After obtaining the emerald, he disappeared rapidly.
Talk about a low-budget flight! I have a suspicion you left the oven on!
But luckily, Knuckles is here with a possible solution. Like straight out of Avengers Endgame, Knuckles plans to go back in time to obtain the Super Emeralds himself, then bring them back to the present to use against the Kaiju Sonic. At this point, with Dr. Eggman/Robotnik dead, and the fact that Tails is starting his kidnappings in various other countries, this is our only option. And it literally is the only feasible option, considering at this rate, Sonic is on an easy path to completely destroying the world. To end off this tape, Knuckles stands on this time machine platform and goes into the past, catching us up on the Sonic tapes. What an absolute wild ride. I always say this, but I was not expecting the series to go into the direction it did, and more importantly, become as impressive as it did. The animation here was top notch. I loved seeing the game design brought to life in this horrifying manner. We even get our little taste of live action found footage brought in here. If I had to guess, there is some demonic presence that ended up possessing our beloved Sonic, turning him into some ravenous beast out to do this entity's bidding, which includes obtaining these emeralds and performing some sort of ritual, which more than likely involves ending the entire world as we know it. Luckily, Knuckles was able to make it out without ending up like Tails or Eggman. I don't know how our creator did it, but they managed to really turn Sonic and Tails' designs into true forces to be reckoned with. The design for Monster Sonic is so creepy yet so cool to witness, especially once he starts moving around animated. I truly can't wait to see where this series goes from here, since it seems we are to expect a final showdown between Sonic and Knuckles. Hopefully we can return Sonic and Tails to their normal selves, but after all the damage and destruction already done, who knows if that's even possible. If you're a fan of the Sonic universe and haven't already seen this series, I highly recommend you check it out. Even if you aren't that well involved in the franchise like I am, I'm sure there are still tons to get out of this that you can enjoy. The animation is incredibly well done, and the creepy imagery is definitely well executed. While this may not be as downright scary as other horrors we have covered in the past, it's definitely still a fun time and worth a watch. With that being said, I can't wait to see the next tapes as they arrive, as I need to see how this concludes. But other than that, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I thank you all for watching. Be sure to leave me recommendations down below, whether in the YouTube comments or community Discord, as I'm always creeping around to get some ideas from you all. But if you'll excuse me, I'm going to play this new game I found called sonic.exe.